is going to be something.
And they have done since Rogue was built, right? It was a class. And that is transferred to the Rogue players that trust their class as well to quite extreme levels. But let's get into this game. Saul absolutely lied to you. This is Recruit Hunter, not Death Rattle Hunter. And this is important. The matchup looks better because of some of those cards you see. They play 2 Tar Creepers, 2 Chain Gangs. The Grizzlies are more common, but also there's still the Houndmaster Shaw, there's still the Rexar. Seeping Oozling is a card that requires much less setup to get value from than you would say of Cube and Eggs and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's more of just a lot of cards they can just drop on the board and say, deal with this, deal with this, deal with this, without anywhere near as much setup as Cube Hunter has right now.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good breakdown. And my mistake, I did call it out as Death Rattle Hunter. It's twice that I've done that now. And with the far right decks of the players' lineups both sides, like clearly I just stop caring when I get to the 9th deck and just write down the first thing that comes to mind.
What a noob.
I know, but yeah, Recruit Hunter much more secure against aggro, especially in the way that Russia have built it. So the chances of a 3-0, especially because they're actually so far ahead on this board, because they can just go coin 3 into 3 here after the Firefly, which they may or may not play as to whether they want to eat up a dagger charge. Personally, I would like to eat a dagger charge here just because it makes Hench Clans more awkward, it makes Deadly Poison more awkward, like all kinds of things later on in the game. And then from that point, they can just like coin Tar Creeper into Stitch Tracker, and they're actually just ahead on board in the early game.
Right, and then because of the way this draw works, they either draw the other low taunts they have, or the good half of their deck at the right half of the game, right? Like, they actually are just drawing the cards in the right order, and that sounds like a very, very dumb thing to say, but it has huge impacts where the opening turns are quintessential and how well this goes for the Rogue.
This is interesting. So this is your first big fear turn, right? You're playing against an aggro deck. They've missed their 1-drop. They've just hero powered on 2, as odd decks are known to do. Now this is where odd decks get scary, right? It's where Hench Clan Thug comes down. It's where King Mukla sometimes comes down. If it's in the list, it's where Hench Clan Thug comes down. So you need to try and set up for that. You have a couple of ways of doing it. First is the Tar Creeper, and then on the following turn, if one of those big threats comes down that you have to remove, you can go Hunter's Mark, Candleshot, Firefly, with the Firefly now protected behind a Tar Creeper, which is a better position for it to be in. If it doesn't come down, if this is just a terrible hand from Hungary, then you can just go ahead and Stitch Tracker.
Yep. And I really like this. This Tar Creeper first is huge because it's also the minion that will draw out a Hench Clan regardless, right? Because you can't play, say, a Flappy Bird into a Tar Creeper, right? It just doesn't work. Hench Clan beats it, though, with this turn, but then you just do the return backhand and say, you know what? Nope, get down, Hench Clan Thug. And also Rexar now. Schneider actually is really good at Hearthstone.
He is. You're memeing, but he also is. And now it's worth looking at the game state. We talked about the decision of Firefly on turn 1 or not, and the difference is thus. There is a Firefly on the board that will stay on the board because it's protected behind a Tar Creeper, versus a dagger charge that may or may not exist at this point. This dagger could have been exhausted if the Firefly came down on turn 1, which means now potentially the Deadly Poison and the Hench Clan Thug that are in hand are a little bit more awkward to use. So you can see even the very basic Hearthstone decision of do I play my 1-drop on 1 has pretty far-reaching implications when you fast-forward time a couple of turns into the future.
It really does as well, because this could be foreseen. This was not a series of fortunate or unfortunate events.
Right.
This was the opening hand play. Like, nothing new has come out into the hand that's dealt with this too much. And this Tar Creeper was unlikely to get cleared up, which meant the floating 1 dagger duration was unlikely to make a huge impact. Even though this cleared up the Tar Creeper, and it is a little bit of a harder turn, was a harder turn, maybe. The fact that the dagger and the poison was used just the once there, to get 1 value out of it, does change this, because sometimes the Rogue does go aggressive and generate a race scenario, which as this kind of hunter, you can't quite do this early in the game.
Right, and if we want to follow this path through, we can keep an eye on this throughout the game. Would you rather have this 1-2 on the board right now, or would you rather that Hungary had not had a dagger last turn? Their entire turn hinged on the back of having a single dagger charge remaining. Otherwise, this Hench Clan Thug would have been coming down as just a 3-3 on the board. How much different is that? You still wouldn't be able to deal with it from hand. There's so many questions, and you can't really definitively call that decision right or wrong because there's just so many variables involved. It's the very difficult part of Hearthstone. It is a technically solvable game, even with all the random effects that can happen, but it's just so far beyond human comprehension,
right?
Yeah, of being able to solve it.
Yeah. The butterfly effect is a problem when you want to get sure outcomes of things. Now, the silence comes down onto the Hench Clan here, and it does directly, you know, sort of contest it. There could just be Cobalt trade onto the 1-2, but the attack on the Spellbreaker is high enough combined with the Candle Shot in hand means that that's 5 power that you can aim anywhere you want. So making a play like Scalebane and not trading to the 4-3 feels really bad for the Rogue. And then also if you do any other play with what's available in hand, that also feels bad for the Rogue. So Staradachi and Team Russia have put themselves in a very good spot. They also have to build up to Saranac Chain Gang. Trades happen in most worlds. And then you can Deathstalker Rexar a lot of the minions away as well. It was a slow turn of the head and a
crushing walls.
One of the best animations currently in the game.
Did you see a recent screenshot on the Twitters, Raven?
I did.
Where 2 Witchwood Grizzlies were destroyed by a crushing walls that came from a Blink Fox in almost this very matchup. I believe that would have been Death Rattle Hunter, Egg Hunter that it was against, but the Grizzlies are in this deck as well.
Yeah, and like we said, there's the 2 Tar Creepers, the Chain Gangs, even although it's not as flashy, just removing them from play if you already have a board and hitting face is game-winning, potentially.
What also could be game-winning
I love the Chain Gangs.
This 1-2 punch that you described, Chain Gang into Rexar, could get a very nice grip on this board, especially because the extra Candle Shot charge is hanging around to make breakpoints happen as well.
Candle Shot, I think on the surface, when it first was revealed, it's like, it's okay. It's actually really good.
I said that card was nice.
Oh, really? Okay. Because I think what's undervalued is the immunity a lot of the time. Like, one damage is fantastic. Mage Hero Power is pretty good, I've heard. But the immunity is like, oh, no, you should tank 7 here. And they just don't. Like, look at Giants, right? Hunter's Marking a Giant, easiest example in the world. The difference between taking 8 and clearing a Giant and taking 0 is absurd. Like, game-winning, game-changing there for just a cheeky little 1-drop weapon.
Yeah. It's exactly really what I think I said when I saw the card at first. It's like, people say, oh, well, Light's Justice doesn't see play. Why would Candle Shot see play? Well, first and foremost, Paladin have a lot better ways to control the board without it, and they also power a quality Consecrate deck if they want to be, which means they can let the board spiral and then just a quality Consecrate, whereas Hunter can't really control early game boards, and the difference between a weapon that's only effective on turn 1 and a weapon that's still effective later on is that immunity. You can just smack big 5/5s and 8/8s with a Candle Shot later in the game and be happy about it.
Yeah, and look at this setup as well. Okay, 3 damage, Rexar, bye-bye board. And yes, you don't have a board yourself, which is a little bit frustrating. You'll end up with just a 1-2, but it is a strong play just to clear off the Rogue board. The other option is just Seeping Oozling, because guess what? Rogue can also not do much about this either.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you might have just tunneled a little bit because that Oozling came anyway, but you were ramping up to it. I know, I'm fine. I'll give you credit for it. It's okay.
I'll take it. Take it. But yeah, this is the issue, right? So somehow, Russia are ahead on health, on board. The hand size is completely reasonable right now.
Sorry, they played around crushing walls accidentally.
Dude, that's exactly what they're laughing about that now. Like.
But I mean, maybe it's on purpose. Who knows? That screenshot I'm talking about got a lot of retweets.
They know their opponents have a Hunter card.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone who's played Hearthstone will agree, when your opponent gets a random effect card of yours, or of the class, it's normally the best card they can possibly get.
Yeah, that's how that works.
I think so.
So many options.
I did get Katharina Death Rattle.
Acceptable.
Yeah, which will summon one of the many beasts, actually. Just to remind you, might be too used to now seeing the Cube Hunter, but there's 2 charged Devil Souls, which do actually have charge when they're pulled, especially like that. And then there's King Crush as a one of course, but then also importantly 2 Witchwood Grizzlies. So there's no real whiff in my book, to be honest, all with the Steeping Oozling. There's like, you either kill the rogue or become immune to everything.
Right.
No. That's a good play, though.
Yeah, it's a nice cleanup. I do want to mention, by the way, I really like that they left Charge Devilsaur as the Charge Devilsaur effect and didn't change it to Rush when it's markedly very similar. I quite often criticize Blizzard for how cruel they are to combo decks, but you know that is a clear nod that they are okay with that being in there as a potential combo win condition. So I love that they did that.
Yeah, I like it too. Just anything that, especially it was well themed, right? You just like make tons of big dinosaurs and throw them at your opponent. Like, that's kind of cool. With King Crush. I mean, I guess people played Cube Druid, didn't they?
Yep.
For a little bit. I think Viper did that once in a tournament.
Cube Druid was brought to a top 16 of a tour stop at Sydney.
Yeah. Crazy people.
Yeah.
Crazy people. I'll play gets a little bit more tricky. You can't just Deathstalker Rexar clear this up. There's a Devilsaur we were talking about. But guess what? Targ Reaper.
Quickly.
Targ Reaper over Hellmaster Shore there. Hellmaster Shore looked pretty powerful this turn.
Wait, this turn? To just do the 3? Oh, it just dies to the Valspine though, right?
Yeah, but you have a Candle Shot equipped still, and the 6/4 goes into your 3/6.
That is true.
Oh.
Didn't play around.
Didn't play around crushing walls this time. Sloppy mechanics, Russia.
I expected better, so.
I did too. Trying to tell me, in Shanadachi's 370,000 games of Hearthstone, he hasn't encountered crushing walls from Blink Fox before? Come on.
Maybe not. Maybe he just doesn't play Hunter unless in the tournament. It's not one of his go-to decks, is it?
I remember he brought it to playoffs. He was one of the few people playing Spell Hunter, like aggro Spell Hunter in playoffs.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that, actually. Definitely not a staple. I'd give Shanadachi Rogue as a staple.
Okay.
I think I'd give a lot of good players Rogue right now for some reason.
Wait for the reaction. Understated.
It's a huge deal. Really big deal. They've just caught up actually in this game, and they shouldn't have really been allowed to.
It's still a fine Rexar turn though.
It is. It is.
And I do like the way that they've played this. They didn't really panic with their Rexar. They recognized that, you know, that Oozling turn was fantastic, and Rexar was going to be great for the next 3 or 4 turns, right? With Candle Shot equipped, with a couple of minions in play, they were always going to be able to set this up.
And most importantly now, they get the hero power off as well. It's very important to get the hero power off as early as possible in setups like this when you play Rexar late, so that you can go wild.
Ooh, did they bloat bat? Did they bloat bat?
I hope so. I would have bloat batted.
That is a Stone Tusk Boar. I like bloat bat anyway, because you could potentially just hide it behind a Witchwood Grizzly over the course of a couple of turns. That Witchwood Grizzly's coming down with a lot of health.
See, now, there are also 2-play deads, so there's a consideration for lifesteal too.
A
B? Fledgling. And Hungry kind of have to do this, right? They can't, like, you know, do the dagger up, get super aggressive. They have to do something, because 21 just isn't quite there, even with dagger, Leroy, deckhand, right?
Right.
They just need one good hit with something. As I did just actually punch myself in the face when I said that.
Stop hitting yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of
Stop
weird.
hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
Really getting into the casting, so it's like I'm a method caster as opposed to a method actor, but yeah.
Roleplay the rest of the cast. Every time Russia takes damage, you have to pretend you're taking damage.
That is absolutely fine. I've watched enough anime to do this.
Okay.
So many options.
They lent immediately towards Baku, did Hungary. But then...
Kind of like the double 3-drop hero power. You've got to think, what do they have from the Rex hero power? Poisonous isn't unlikely. If you do you want to just completely get wiped to Poisonous?
How about Leroy them and then make a 2/6?
That was cool. Back. Oh, okay. It's like a Godzilla fight going down right now. Baku the Moon Eater versus King Crush.
Yep, and giant dinosaurs do in fact beat weird magical moon lizard things.
Yeah. It's actually true.
That's just basic biology.
What do what the megalodons? That's it, isn't it?
Is it?
The giant sharks. What do they beat?
Are they megalodons?
I think they're megalodons.
Okay. My dinosaur knowledge has never really been up to scratch. I always used to know like kids at school who could name like 75 different dinosaurs.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You knew the cool kids then.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Whew. I like the one with like the armor on the back and the clobbering tail. You know that one?
The spines on the back? It's just
it's just like armor and it's got the tail with the ball at the end that smacks people.
Yeah.
That was always my favorite. I can't remember the name though, so I couldn't have liked it that much, could I?
Again, my mate James, he could have told you.
I'm sure he still could.
Yeah.
It's not the type of thing you forget.
James, hit me up. No idea if you follow me on Twitter. Haven't spoken to you for like 20 years at this point.
Dinosaur James. So the issue with the bat is that you can't proc it that easily if you don't have the rush, especially with no play deads in hand. So
he does though, right? He must have taken Stone Toss Ball with it, surely. Oh no, he took Lifesteal. Okay, interesting. I hadn't noticed.
Which was the big payoff if he got play dead, because that's insane, right? You could just clear the board and get the lifesteal. But if this goes off, he wins more than likely.
Yeah,
so
but
behind the Grizzly, it's huge.
Right, and this is the play I talked about. You know, setting this up in a couple of turns' time. Just Grizzly into Bloatbat was just looking so potentially powerful and a game-winning play. So I guess with that in mind, taking the lifesteal was actually smart, right? If you knew that you had this setup. I talked about this setup and then didn't really extend the logic to the point that you didn't need the charge if you were going to make this setup happen. I guess the only world you're scared of now is like second Vile Spine, where just too much damage would be pushed potentially. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you do get a lot. I always lean towards lifesteal with this, unless you need poison, of course, to just wipe a Taunt Druid board, for example. But like lifesteal, I feel in matchups like this, the second it goes off, you've won, and you also still have 2 play deads you can draw.
Yeah, no, understandable.
Right, that is a huge deal. No trackings in this list, which is a little bit weaker in terms of the cubes, in terms of getting what you need. But the second this blowback happens, how does Rogue do more damage right now?
So they're going to finish this with Dagger and then Fungal Mancer the remaining minions.
Let's push the most damage.
Yeah, still only 15 even with Wind Fury. Takes the stealth though, which at least gives them some semblance of an out on the following turn with the stealth fledgling.
Our Master Show's pretty sweet right now though. Cave Hydra.
Oh, the absolute boy! This is the king of all high rolls. If they can fix this up.
They need anything for the Hydra to attack.
Yep.
They can get. Oh, so they need ball, right? Stone Toss Ball. Exactly.
Or Echo Rush guy would be good enough, right? Is it too expensive? No, it's fine.
Oh, Scale-Eyed. Yeah, because the bat can proc itself. You don't need Shaw, right? I was working out what you could do, what you could get with Shaw, but then you still need like 1 mana stuff. So any of the 0 mana ones would get the job done too.
They actually went Timberwolf, which I guess has merit as well.
Push more damage, right? Oh no, no, it doesn't.
Boom.
Slight missequence there from Russia. The Timberwolf would have buffed the Bloatbat, which would have healed them for 1 more because the attack has lifesteal. Could have been on 20. Probably not going to make a difference, but still. A lot of the time it does make a difference if you just miss lifesteal damage.
I do like this route they took as well, because actually trying to high roll the position where you kill the fledgling is probably something that you just tunnel on in that spot, and then leaving yourself the freedom with the cheap beast to be able to just pick up any taunt, right? If you just take the cheap beast, then you can just put that taunt down, and it's so unlikely that that vicious fledgling